organized planning part of it, because as I said before, if you don't schedule it, it's not real. Talking about what you're going to do and how great it's going to be and how cool is your plan and all that kind of stuff, it ends up being only talk, unless you schedule it and you put it in a calendar and how you're going to do it. But even a little farther than that, and I kind of translate this a little bit into what your business plan will be. You gotta organize yourself for next year, for example, right? What's 2020? That's fucking amazing. I can't believe we're in 2020 already. I thought the world was gonna end in 2012. If you know what all the predictions were? Well, I think, talking a little bit about that, I think 2012, the way how people interpret it as being the end of the world, I think it's more like the world in the way how we knew it. I think that, those old cultures like Mayans and Aztecs and Native Americans and all those get that traditions on that year, and there's a reason why they all coincide in that time. I think that in 2012 there's been a change, an energetic change in the world, and awareness change in the world, and there is been a change of climate. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think the world's going, global warming, climate change that I call it right now. I think if you guys really read into that, it's not the first time that the world's gonna overheat, and then it freezes again, and then overheats again, and obviously we speed up the process tremendously because there's too many people in the world, and most people don't really care about the climate. And I'm getting a little deeper into the climate myself. I'm getting involved with some organizations that about planting trees. I think that's a very great thing to do. That's the only way, really. I was watching this video of this scientist that starts the video by saying, finally, the machine that is going to solve global warming, and we have a machine basically that is going to solve this, and it's not expensive, and it's very easy, and it's called a tree, right? So I'm myself getting a little bit more involved, and I'm at the very early stages. And I was approached, actually, interestingly enough, through Instagram, through a organization, and I'm going to meet with them, and I want to see what that means, really. But I think the world's going through change right now. There's a lot of stuff happening. Technologies change, the speed of how things happen, climate is changing. There's a lack of leaders in the world. Not just here in the United States, but everywhere in general. There's a lack of leaders. So I think there's a lot of changes that started to happen in 2012. And with changes, there are a lot of bad things that need to happen to recycle itself. And I think with that also a lot of good things are happening, and new leaders are going to come, and new people that care more about the world and not just about their personal goals and own satisfactions. They cannot be good for one person that is not good for everybody else. I believe that we all are part of one big thing, and I believe that if you think that you're getting something that's good for you and doesn't benefit everybody else, that's really not good for you either. So what's good for one is good for everybody, and what's bad for everybody is also bad for you. So I think that it's going to be a little consciousness that is going to reach a different stage for people, and I think that more and more people that I meet and I talk to, we can say are more awakened into this, So it's very promising, it's very exciting, but it also takes a lot of work. So kind of derailed from the subject, but it's a super cool thing that I'm getting into right now. So when you go through this process of organized planning, what I like you guys to do, we're going to read all these things that are in here that they mentioned in this book, but I like to apply the organized planning here. It talks about having a mastermind group. This is our mastermind group. Right now we're meeting once a week. We'll do it for another few weeks, and then whoever after this wants to get together, wants to create a group, or you want to find one person that you want to continue to talk or meet once a week to be accountable, it would be a great idea. If you want to get a group of 3 or 4 people to have, breakfast or lunch on Fridays to talk about it, I think it's a great thing to do, But what I like to do is you guys start putting together a business plan, and it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be super elaborated. With the internet now, literally you can go on Google and say how to do a business plan, and you'll get a bunch of samples on how to create a business plan that you can kind of apply it to what real estate is or what you do. But I think if you have a plan, you start planning right now what your 2020 is gonna be, and you create a business plan with your goals clear, and you just combine that with, the concepts that we do in here, and you start applying, having that realistic plan of making goals or whatever is that gonna be in your business plan to reach your goals, and you combine with the, meditations, with the visualization, with reading your goal and all the things that we're learning over here, and you start doing it right now, as soon as the year starts, I can guarantee you it's gonna be a different year. It's gonna be a much more positive, and you're gonna feel good about it, and therefore the results are gonna be also higher. And there's a lot of people in here that have come to me through the years actually to tell me how much their years have improved. I mean, so that makes me very happy. So I really enjoy being here, truly. I really look forward to being here with you guys on Fridays, and I hope you're doing the same thing. And it makes me very happy that people actually are finding, something valuable about it. So, in chapter 2, when we were instructed to take the 6 definite practical steps that you probably haven't already done, that's to translate whatever the goal of money or whatever you want, there's certain things that you need to do. So the organized planning is basically going to break it down on what you need to do to build a plan, right? Whether you need a support group or not, that's something personal. Time sometimes it's hard to find time to meet people and do this kind of stuff. So if you find that you do it alone, it's good. If you have a coach that can keep you on track, is good. I coach with Steve Scholl, and a lot of people come to me and ask me, so when you meet with Steve, what do you guys do? What he makes you do? How many calls you do? And how many? And the interesting thing is I meet with Steve, and we don't really talk about real estate. For me, it's it's a bouncing board with ideas and frustrations, or anything that I have someone that I can talk to, and it's a support for me. It's just kind of like a reminder, and every time that I'm talking to him and we're talking about the market or whatever, he always goes back and he says, use this. You used that before, and that's why you're good at it. And he's kind of reminder to tell me, like, I have used these concepts and I have used my brain to kind of create my own reality, and he reminds me that all the time. And the funny thing is that you would think I won't forget about it. How can I forget that? I have an amazing year after year and this works. But the truth is so crazy that we are so wired to not do it, that I myself find a lot of times that I'm not doing the things. I mean, they're simple things, but I just, whatever, you don't do it. Life gets in between. Yes?
How long ago did you start with Steve Scholl, and how often do you meet with him now?
I meet every other week in person. I do have calls when I need to have calls. And I started, when did I start with Steve Scholl? Like 2 years ago?
No, I think I was still with friends, at least like 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like 3 years ago. I think it was 2015 when I started with him. Yeah. So, yeah.
What was your motivation for starting with him, considering a lot of people start with coaching when they're facing a problem or when they're really trying to gear up their business or just change like the focus or how they do things, versus where you were already at a point where your trajectory was pretty good?
Yeah, I mean, 2015 I was really busy, and I wanted to make sure that I wanted to hear from someone that has seen all this from a different perspective and has been coaching for a long time. I mean, obviously I was doing something right because I've been doing really good that year, but I wanted to make sure that there was nothing that I was leaving in there that I was missing, or because of the speed that my business has been growing, I didn't want to get into a problem that was going to damage my business. So, and it was very random, I knew about Steve. I met Steve for the first time when I started the business in 2004 in Keller Williams. He used to coach Keith Cox and a few other guys that I found were big agents. And then I went to one of his, he spoke, he used to do these speaking events at 1221 Ocean. And that was it. I just kind of like, they told me, he doesn't take more appointments. He, maybe you can sign up for calls. I don't know how he's doing right now, but fast forward to 2015, I went to my kid's school event, like the yearly event for the school, and his daughters were in the same school. So I remember went out to the side to the bar to order a drink, and he was there, so I just started talking to him, and he, you know, we knew each other. And I said, so I heard that, you know, it's hard to get appointments, like if I wanted to coach with you, just for the hell of it, and how does it work, you know, how do you do this? And he's like, yeah, you know, I have a pretty busy schedule or whatever, but I'll be very interested in coaching you, and we connected, and then we started, basically. He helped me to transition of how to organize myself and prepare for the way how my business was growing, and what are the things that I should make sure that I have in place. And then as we got to know each other, we had to exchange a lot of information on this kind of book and beliefs that we both have, and it became more a support on that end, more than the real estate. So it's almost like he's like, I mean, obviously you're doing good in real estate, so you don't seem a guy that I need to motivate you to make phone calls. So he said, how about if we talk more about this? And I said, great. And that's basically what I do with him. Sometimes we talk about real estate too, but that's not the main reason, I think. You know, I talk about other things. So, but it's great. I mean, you know, we're not buddies, we don't hang out all the time or everything, but we have that relationship that I can count on him for when I have an idea, when I have a doubt, or I'm frustrated, or having that just a pure opinion that he doesn't have any, you know, direction. He's just giving me his opinion. So it's good to have a person like that, I think. Okay, so keep in mind these two facts. I'm going to read these two because I really believe in these two things, okay? First, you are engaged in an undertaking of major importance to you. To be sure of success, you must have plans which are faultless, right? We're talking about our lives, right? So you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan of your life because, I mean, I think that this is very important, right? Second, you must have the advantage of the experience, education, native ability, and imagination of other minds. This is in harmony with the methods followed by every person who has accumulated a great fortune. So let's not forget that he studied, you know, we already talked about who he's studying for how long. So if there are people that already gone through stuff, there are people that are reading a book, if there are people that already made it happen in what we're doing, there should be no reason why we couldn't do it. And why we don't just learn from them. You know, there can be a lot of teachers that we can learn from it, and some of them are here, right? There's a lot of people that have gone through stuff that we haven't gone through it, a difficult deal, or whatever it is, that you can learn from that, right? I mean, it's important to learn through other people's experiences, and I think it's important to be humble enough to, it's okay that you don't know it all, right? And if you can just own that and ask and have the open mind to ask for favors or ask for questions or advice, you'll save time. You'll save time, and you won't make the mistake that, you know, there's two kind of people, I think, right? There are the kids that, you know, they're trying to touch the stove, and you say, no, you touch it, you're gonna burn your hand, and they listen, which is the minority. And they're the kids that say, don't touch that because you're gonna burn yourself, and they freaking touch it, and they burn and they learn, right? So it's almost like, which one you wanna be, right? You wanna listen, or you just wanna try it yourself? And sometimes you wanna try it, that's okay with that, you know, you wanna learn your own way. But for the most part, I learned in my life that I have a lot of friends that are older than me. Like I always was kind of attracted to, since I was 12, 13, to older friends. So I like to learn to that. I have friends that are in their 70s and their 80s right now that I love talking to because they're just wiser people, you know, they've gone through a lot, and you can learn what to do and you can learn what not to do. It's not just you're gonna meet an older person and they're gonna tell you all the secrets and you're gonna be great. Through their life, you're gonna see things that they've done that you shouldn't make those mistakes. So I think you can learn both. It's not just one thing, right? It's like you can learn both things, right? So I like to outline and go over we talk about planning on the sale of personal services. We know what service we do in real estate, so let's skip that part of it. This is an important thing. Most leaders begin as followers, right? So I don't believe that you can be a good leader if you don't have in your life the experience of have followed a good leader, right? if you had someone, whether it's your dad, your mom, your grandfather, an older friend, a mentor, a teacher, whatever it is that you saw as a leader, person, and you believe in that person and you follow that. If you don't have the ability to look at someone as a leader and learn and accept that, you want to follow that person, I think you won't have the ability to lead yourself. It's kind of like you need to know the other side to be able to do it yourself at some point. So, and that's why it's important to find mentors and coaches and stuff like that, because there's got to be that person that you follow and you believe and you trust in order for you to be able to be trustworthy and inspire in other people to be also a leader. So that's what this basically is talking about, to having that humbleness and the ability to have someone that you look up to. And that doesn't need to be someone that you will look up to for life, right? There is periods of time in your life that you will follow and have leaders in different areas of your life, personal, fitness, whatever it is, right? So let's read here the major attributes of leadership. And what I like to do is, I'll read the attributes, which are basically 11 of them. And if someone has anything to say or something that they read about that or an opinion, raise your hand. We'll talk a little bit about that and then we'll go to the next one, okay? Major attributes of leadership. The following are important factors of leadership. And we were encouraged based upon knowledge of self and of one's occupation. No follower wishes to be dominated by a leader who lacks self-confidence and courage. No intelligent follower will be dominated by such a leader very long, right? Does that make sense? Any comments? Pretty clear, right? Okay. Self-control. This is when it becomes tricky. You can try to get people to follow you to do certain things if you don't show it by example, right? You can't tell people to do something if you're not doing it yourself. You gotta show with example that, that if you're expecting people that are following you to do certain things, you cannot be the guy that doesn't do it. So if I tell you guys, now that we're doing this course and I'm, let's say, the leader of this class, and I say, okay guys, I have an exercise. Meet me everybody at the beach at 6:30 in the morning next Friday, and we're all gonna go on a run, and we're gonna jump in the ocean, and you show up and I don't show up. Yeah. That's a simple example. But in everything, I think, like, if you wanna be a leader in your family, like, if you want your kids not to do certain things, you cannot be doing those things, right? So you need to have self-control. I think self-control is one of the biggest attributes that a leader has, on having that self-control sometimes is very hard. You need to have a keen sense of justice. And that's why I started this class today, Everything that you do and everything that you involve yourself in a transaction has to benefit everybody. It can benefit only you and damage someone else because that's gonna come back to you, that's not gonna work well. So when you're doing something, you need to have that keen sense of justice, what's fair and what's the right thing to do. And we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. Sometimes you get tempted by doing stuff that, if I do a little bit like this, I'll come off better. But it doesn't work that way. So it'll come off better that moment, but that's gonna fire back. So always looking into, like, I'm getting myself involved with this transaction because it's gonna benefit everybody that is involved with it. And if you do that, that's what's gonna get you to the next level and to the next level and to the next level. And not only that, people will know that that's the kind of person you are, the kind of individual you can shake hands with, and you don't need a piece of paper to know that if he said he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. Definiteness of decision. The man who wavers in his decision shows that he's not sure of himself, cannot lead others unsuccessfully, right? Anyone? Mm-hmm. If you said, when you make a decision and you're sure 100% of yourself, it's almost like an energy. It's almost like a wave of energy that goes out there, right? If I say, I'm doing this, you're gonna believe me because in the way how I said it, it is. But if you have doubts and you say it, people feel that. Like if you go to a house and you get in a listing appointment and you tell that person, I got this, I can sell this, I can deliver, somewhere around this number. And I have this plan, and you're doing your presentation, and the way how you do your presentation, people will feel, and well, first of all, they will know that you have the knowledge, and they will know that what you're talking about, but behind that, there's a little bit of energy that presents to those people. Like people will be like, yeah, I know this guy has the confidence, I know he can do it. There's something about him that, makes me believe in him. I trust that this guy is gonna take care of it. You have to be 100%, I think, convinced that you can do something before you can convince anyone else. You can convince someone to do something if you're not convinced yourself. Like, oh, maybe let's do that, and yeah, I think I can do it. I wouldn't go around the world with that person. And then you have to have the definiteness of plans. A successful leader must plan his work and work his plan. So you plan it, and then you need to do it. You can say what the plan is and then don't do it, right? A leader who moves by guesswork without practical, definite plans is comparable to a ship without a rudder. Sooner or later, he will land on the rocks. And it goes back to the goal, right? You gotta have a goal and you gotta have plans. How I'm gonna get from here to LAX? I'm gonna call an Uber, right? I'm gonna tell him I wanna go to LAX, right? And then there's a plan how to get there. But if you get an Uber and you said, take me somewhere, that'll be a very expensive trip and you'll never get to LAX. And who knows what's gonna happen in between, right? So, the habit of doing more than paid for. This is a really important thing, is when you're supposed to do something, right? Open houses. Let's see an open house, right? I'm gonna do my open house. I told my client I'm gonna do an open house. So I'm gonna show up at 1:58. I'm gonna open the door. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna sit in the couch. I'm not gonna even open doors or turn on all the lights, because it's easier when I leave just to turn off 2 lights as opposed to 15. And I'm just gonna get in my phone, I'm gonna look at Instagram for 3 hours or I'm gonna whatever. Yeah, you did what you said you're gonna do, you're sitting in an open house. But you're not really doing it like you're supposed to be doing it, right? So if you get there early enough, that you make sure that the house is there, the lights are on, the doors are open. If you bring your little speaker, the house doesn't have a smart fancy system, right, that you can work it anyway. Put some music, bring a candle, which, but to be honest, I got really bad at that. I used to be like really good at that. Bring my candle, bring a flower, just whatever, just to bring that extra work to be there. That kind of energy is what's gonna get you to the next level. It's like putting that out there is controllable. We talk about what you can control or not. You cannot control how many people are gonna show up your open house. You can't. But you can control on that good energy you're gonna put out there, that you're doing more than 100% of what you should be doing. You're really putting that thing out there. That's super important. And that's not only with open houses, that's just one example. But in everything you do, if you do a little bit more than what you're supposed to do, people will notice that. People will observe that, people admire that, people look up to that, and people will see you as a leader on, whatever you're doing. A pleasing personality. How do you pronounce this word? Who wants to read this? 7. Out loud, someone help me.
Slovenly.
Okay, can you read the rest?
No slovenly, careless person can become a successful leader. Leadership calls for respect. Followers will not respect a leader who does not grade high on all of the factors of a pleasing personality.
Right. How can you have pleasing personality? Anyone has an idea? How can you develop, or how can you present yourself as having a pleasant personality?
Listening to others, not
Okay.
always having to dominate the room.
Good.
Being positive,
Great.
Being humble.
Yes.
smiling,
Okay.
Having empathy,
Yes,
dress well.
great. Anyone else? So all those, I think, are important attributes and are important things that, do you think all those things are controllable? Do you think those are things that you can do, that you can take care of yourself?
Yeah.
They are. Because that's when we go back on like, what is that you, always go back to what can you do. It's very easy to fall into like the news and you go to brokers open house and people are talking about how nothing is selling. None of that matters, right? But having a smile, right? It's been scientifically proved that if you smile, if you literally wake up and smile, you already are in a good mood. Because your brain, right, the connections of your brain, you have already set up through the years, you know, paths in your brain that when your face smiles, the brain thinks you're happy, right? Because every time you smile, you're happy. So if you smile, and you smile for like 20 seconds, you're automatically gonna be in a better mood because your brain is getting that information and is saying, oh, we're supposed to be happy right now. So that's proven, okay? I'm not just saying for saying it, but just give it a shot.
You're much more approachable too. I mean, if you're
of
not
course.
smiling, people don't want to approach you.
Yeah, so yes,
That also works on the phone. If you don't like making
It does.
phone calls, smile when you're on the phone, and it
Yes.
actually changes your whole tone and how you're delivering through the phone.
it's true. I don't remember who told me this, but when I read somewhere, it was like, before you're gonna make a phone call, right? Take a deep breath. That's fine. You know, before you're gonna make a call to a client or something, whether you're gonna give them good news or bad news or whatever, take a deep breath and put yourself in a good state to have that conversation. Don't call like in the middle of and stress driving, trying to get in the 405 and it's a lot. Don't make the call that moment. Just give yourself a moment and then take a deep breath. And before you make that phone call, just have that little bit of a, take a deep breath, smile, and make the phone call, right? Because like you said, that person on the other side of the phone will feel the calm, the positiveness of your voice. If you call someone that you're really stressed out, if someone's about to crash because you're trying to get in the 405 and there's a big truck, semi-truck coming really close to you and it's getting really stressful and you're making the phone call, they're gonna feel that it's not gonna go well, right? Maybe that's a stupid example, but it's an example. So talking about all those things, but the most important thing is how can you have a pleasant personality if you're not pleased with yourself? Right? I think so. Again, everything starts from within, right? If you wake up early and you are in a grateful mood, right? Or you start being grateful of the things you have as you smile, and if you exercise, if you like to exercise in the mornings, and you give yourself those 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, 1 hour for yourself, where you're not interrupted by this, nothing else, it's your time, and you give that to yourself, when you're done giving to yourself, you have a much more present personality than if you wake up late and you jump in a call and you read your email and the escrow's falling, then you won't have that same thing. So to have a pleasant personality, you need to create that yourself every day, right? If you're walking from an unpleasant appointment and you need to go to a listing appointment with a different person, well, it's not this person's fault that this person was a jackass to you, right? So you need to kind of like finish that, start from scratch, and go with that new energy to that new person, because you know it's just kind of like a domino, right? That one really bad, and now this, I'm not gonna get this, and then you just, by the end of the day, you know, you'll be bummed out. And sympathy and understanding for others. Successful leader must be a sympathy with his followers. Moreover, he must understand them and their problems. Sympathy, empathy, no judging, which I think is a very tough thing to do. I think we live in a society that we judge a lot. And when you judge a person, you never know why that person is doing that, where they come from, what happened to them. You really don't know what the hell. So you can't just judge someone by looking at it or by one exchange with that person. So the day that you start understanding and being more kind to others. That, there's a song by Sting that says, "Don't judge me, it could be you in another life with a different set of circumstances." If you really listen to that song, it's like, that could be you, that is angry or is depressed or is negative, because you never know what set of cards that person has been dealt with. But if you have like that sympathy for others and you understand, then people will look at you in a different way. They will look at you as you're not judging. They feel that. By one look, by what you say, people feel like you're judging them, and they just never want to open up to you, and you can't lead like that. And when I say lead, you can be a leader you can be the president of the United States, or you can just be a leader of your family, or you can be just a leader with your clients, because when you have a book of clients, they look at you as the professional that's taking care of them. So you are that leader for that period of time. And that's really important, when you meet with people, that they look at you that, oh, you're the broker, right? I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, they always look at as real estate agents of a lower level of professional. But if you have the ability to, be a leader and do all these things, then people will look at you in a different way. I have clients that are billionaires that they respect my opinion because, I show them that I'm not just there to sell a house and do a transaction. So if you have the ability to portray that, people will understand that there is different layers within the real estate community, right? So we need to strive to be at the top, and all these things, and your knowledge of the market and your professionalism and doing the extra mile and all that kind of stuff. People that are successful recognize success in other people. So people that are successful will know that they're dealing with a whole different caliber of individual. They will talk to you differently. They will treat you differently. It really changed the whole perspective. Getting on a phone call with a big guy with 2 business managers and a lawyer and everything, if you have that ability, when you get in that call, they won't treat you as like, we all be in conversations with business manager when they, like, what you know, right? So I think all this is important. Mastery of detail. Successful leadership calls for mastery of the details of the leader's position. Little details, little things, thank you cards. You have no idea how important a simple thank you card is, right? And that's something that I got really bad at, right? I used to go to listing appointments, and every time I finish a listing appointment, I make sure that that same day I send a simple thank you note for considering me to sell your house. All those little details make a big difference, so we need to do that again. Those are the details, the little extra things. And I know people in this company do amazing things, right? I can think of one of them, but I heard examples. We get emails sometimes with Billy and Mo of clients are very happy, and a lot of times Mo is very good at that, and Billy too, of posting and connect on, some agent did this, and there's an example right there. He's got an amazing letter from a client from Jonathan, did an amazing job, because he did those details. He did that extra thing that people notice, right? Anyone has anything to say? I feel like I'm going like a machine gun and I'm not letting you talk. You good? Right. Just raise your hand, please.
Go on.
All right. Willingness to assume full responsibility. This one is huge, and this one is probably one of the hardest ones, right? But the day that you can see, leaders are the ones the ability to know when they made a mistake and recognize it and say, I fucked up. What's my bad? You need to own it. People respect that. If you try to cover yourself and just kind of be in the, I don't know what happened, escrow, or I don't know, I didn't, if you own it and you said that was me, everybody makes mistakes. I don't care who you are, how successful you are, any successful person or client will understand and will respect and appreciate the fact that you're telling them that you fucked up. Sorry for the bad words, but that's what I think it feels good to say, Sorry, I fucked up. And sorry for the language. But if you have that ability, people are gonna look at you differently. Because they're gonna know that you know and you recognize you made a mistake, and people that recognize that they made a mistake, they have a tendency to less mistakes, but they don't like to be saying, hey, sorry, I fucked up. Hey, yeah, sorry, I fucked up. Well, you can't be going around saying that all the time. So when you do it, then you need to just own it.
That, and when you don't know something, admit that you don't know it and go find the answer, and then get back to the person. It's almost more powerful than just giving them an answer and being like, I think so, but you know, whatever.
Super, super important, very simple. You know what, let me find out about it to be 100% sure, and I'll call you right back. No one's gonna say, no, you didn't know the answer right now, I'm gonna take the listing from you. That's not gonna happen. Just, you know, tell them, you know what, I wanna be sure, let me call you right back in 15 minutes. Call Billy, and then call him back.
You know, along those lines, because I was thinking back when you were talking about learning from your mistakes, and there's those who, you know, they listen to it, or they, I think one of the things I learned as a lawyer is that, you know, particularly newer lawyers, they kind of want to, and a lot of people in every kind of profession want to do the, you know, fake it till you make it thing. And as a young lawyer, the typical response is, you know, when we were negotiating contracts, you'd find that a young lawyer would say, no, like, I can't make that change. And that's like a knee-jerk reaction, because they're trying to make it seem like they know something. They don't want to acknowledge that maybe they don't know, or they don't understand why you want it, so they just say no. And I think that's a mistake that people make, and as you know, as we get older and as we learn more things and we get more wise, we realize that nobody knows everything. You know, there's so much, and it's like, it's totally okay not to know. I mean, I know more now that I don't know. You know, it's like I see so many different transactions. I get involved in so many different, you know, scenarios where people are asking me questions, and I realize, I've never seen that before, I don't know. And, you know, I think that too often we think we have to have the answer for it, and the right answer is really just knowing how to get it. You know, that when I was teaching law, you know, I used to have open book tests, because to me it was not about like what you could remember, it was how could you find the answer. You just have to know there's an issue there, you got to be able to see the red flag. And that's why when we bring up things in sales meetings and stuff, it's really about like, you know, can we just make you aware of the fact that if you hear this word, or if you come across a scenario, there's an issue to know about. And so you can go, oh, wait, there's something there. I got to figure out what that is, so you don't fall into that trap.
Yep. Thank you, Billy. And the last one, 11, cooperation. Successful leader must understand and apply the principle of cooperative effort and be able to induce his followers to do the same. Leadership calls for power, and power calls for cooperation. And I think that's one of the things that makes this company better than any other company out there. We all help each other. We do the cooperation, we do the collaboration. I think that everybody feels that, you know, as the years go, now 8 years in the business and everything, people going to other places and coming back and saying that one of the things that they missed the most was that sense of a family that we can trust and count on each other, right? So you have a group of people that so many people that are very good at different things that you can capitalize on that. You can capitalize on, you know, helping or getting help from all of us, because like Billy says, you cannot know it all, right? But together you can know more. So you gotta have that sense of cooperation. You need to work with other people, okay? So those are the 11 major attributes of leadership. Now let's talk about the 10 major causes of failure of leadership. Mistakes that we probably do. The inability to organize details. Efficient leaders call for ability to organize and to master details. No genuine leader is ever too busy to do anything which might be required of him in his capacity as a leader. When I say this, it's his and hers, okay? It's just the book we talk about. When a man or woman, whether he or she is the leader or follower, admits that he or she is too busy to change his plans or to give attention to any emergency, he admits his inefficiency. The successful leader must be the master of details connected with his position. That means, of course, that he must acquire the habit of relegating details to capable lieutenants. We're talking, when was it? When was the last time I was like in a panel or talking in a group? They were talking, oh yes, I got invited over the weekend on Saturday to San Diego for the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, NAREP, which is an organization that's growing tremendously because the percentage of growth of Latinos in the United States, American Latinos are born here, is growing at a speed that is crazy. And this association is combined of real estate agents, mortgage brokers, financial advisors of people that they are not in the business. So I got invited to speak at the event on Saturday, and I was sitting with 4 other people, and they made a mistake on the panel, and they put me in the panel of teams. So all the questions were like, okay, so you know, when you put together a team, and the whole thing about teams, and one of the interesting things in there was that I said is like, if you need to have the ability, if you want to grow and you want to build a team, you got to have the ability to delegate, right? Because if you cannot delegate and you want to do it all, because a lot of us have that A-type personality that if I don't do it, I feel like it's not going to get all right, then you won't be able to grow. You have to have the ability to delegate stuff to people that are helping you, that are around you, whether it's in a team or whether it's in the company that I consider all of us to be a team. If you don't have the ability to delegate and you want to micromanage everything, you won't be able to do it because there's not enough time and you just won't grow, right? So that's a very important one, and that's under the 10 major causes of failure because most people fail that, delegating, having the ability to trust someone to do something else for you. And willingness to render humble service. Truly great leaders are willing, when occasion demands, to perform any sort of labor which they would ask another to perform. The greatest among you shall be the servant of all, is truth which all able leaders observe and respect. Okay. I remember, I'll give you one example. One of the biggest listings I got back in 2012. I got a listing on Chautauqua for 16 million. Remember, 2012, 16 million was like having a $30 million listing right now. And that was the biggest listing that I got out of door knocking, right? So it was like a true, I owned that, right? Like I door knock, I visited this construction site for a year and a half, and I ended up getting the listing. The owner, you know, met with me and said, you know what, you're very persistent, you came, you seem like you know what you do, whatever, here's the listing. He gives me the listing, and this beautiful house, 500 Chautauqua, and finish the house, new construction, the house gets staged, he needs to fill up the pool. Believe it or not, it wasn't one of those pools that fills automatically when his pool stops, doesn't have the automatic thing. So he's filling it with a hose, and I finish meditating, I get in my bed, and as I'm turning on my phone, I get a message from him, and he's like, hey dude, I forgot, I'm so sorry, but I forgot to turn off the hose on the house, and I'm looking at the camera, and it's already overflowing, and he lives far away. He's like, there's any way, and I'm so sorry that you can go and turn off the hose. Sure, right? You get up and you do something that you didn't really need to do, right? I didn't need to do it, but you know, I wanted to do it. So I got my car, I had to jump the fence because I didn't have a key on the house yet, turn off the hose and come back. And that's just a small example, but those little extra things, you know, that you can do. And sometimes, you know, I could just turn off my phone and be like, oh, sorry, I didn't see it, I was sleeping already, right? So those little things, and that's maybe not the best example, but the first one that came to my mind. And willingness to render humble service. Oh no, this is the one. 3, expectation of pay for what they know instead of what they do with that which they know. The world does not pay men for which they know. It pays them for what they do or induce others to do, right? Who was talking to? I don't remember who I was talking to, but we're talking about this super smart guy, right? right? I think it was Alejandro. We're talking about this person in common that we know. And he purchased a house and he paid $3 million more than what he should have paid. And we're just talking, and he was telling me, like, how come he's such a smart guy? He's a super smart guy, right? He knows it all. Like, yeah, he's smart. He knows when George Washington died and what kind of suit was he wearing, and he has that kind of knowledge that you know a lot. But he didn't really do what he needed to do his homework on, like, I moved from Mexico City, what are really the comps? He didn't really do that extra study, and he just trusted someone, and he got, he bought into a house that he spent literally $3 million more, and I got to know the guy, and we talked about it, and he couldn't believe that he made a mistake. But you need to do stuff. Say doers are better than thinkers, right? It's great to think, it's great to have the ideas, but you don't get paid for that. You get paid for doing, right? Fear of competition from followers. The leader who fears that one of his followers might take his position is practically sure to realize that fear sooner or later. The able leader trains and understudies to whom he might delegate at will any of details of his position. Only in this way may leaders multiply himself and preparing himself to be at many places and give attention to many things at one time. It is an eternal truth that men receive more pay for their ability to get others to perform than they could possibly earn by in their own efforts. An efficient leader might, through his knowledge of his job and the magnetism of his personality, greatly increase the efficiency of others and induce them to render more services and better service than they could render without his aid. Goes back to delegating, right? You need to delegate, you need to trust, and it doesn't take away from you that someone that you delegated is doing that sale, is doing whatever it is that's going to happen out of what you want to do. And it comes a little bit with wanting to take the credit. It's not about that, right? It's being a leader is having the ability to get other people to do things, and we all benefit out of it, right? Doesn't matter if we have a showing and Griffin shows the house and his showing is the showing that they buy it. Well, that's awesome, right? Because we all win, right? So that's the way I feel, and I think that's the way that all of you that are growing and have an assistant or putting together a team, you need to feel that it's because you're together that you're getting more stuff done. And a lot of people worry about taking the credit for every single thing and wanting to micromanage everything, and kind of goes back to the same kind of thing, right? But it's just having the ability to let people do this stuff, and who sells it, whatever happens, doesn't matter, because the main goal is what's important. Lack of imagination, which is a huge one. So a lot of people, believe it or not, have lack of imagination. Without imagination, the leader is incapable of meeting emergencies and of creating plans by which to guide his followers efficiently, right? This is a long chapter, so I'm gonna keep going, because I just realized we have 7 minutes. Selfishness, right? You cannot be selfish. Intemperance. Followers do not respect an intemperate leader. Moreover, intemperance in any of its various forms destroys the endurance and the vitality of who indulge in it. You don't get what that is?
No.
No? Do you want to say something about it?
Sure. This is like someone who's not really. It's kind of the reverse side of the one that talks about self-control.
Yeah.
So if you're not able, when I worked at UTA as a talent agent, there was one, head of the department who was kind of known for being an asshole, and he'd like throw staplers at people. And, it's like today you get like harassment suit, but if you can't control yourself, if you're hostile to people, then you're never going to get their respect, and you're never going to have them follow you.
Yeah.
It wasn't him. It was a different one.
Okay.
All right, disloyalty. That explains itself, right? I think loyalty is one of the exactly as a person can have loyalty to your significant other, loyal to your friends, loyal to your team, loyal to your company, loyal to your country, loyal to everything, right? Team loyalty is a very important thing to have. Emphasis on the authority of leadership. The efficient leader leads by encouraging and not by trying to instill fear in the hearts of his followers. It's also leading, not pushing. You can push people to do stuff. You need to lead, and by lead means lead by example. You need to be willing to be the person that takes the bullet and is in front of the line for people to be willing to follow you. If you're willing to go all the way and die for something, then people are going to follow you, and that's true leadership. It's not dictatorship, where people are going to make you do something because if not, you're going to be the one taking the bullet from the leader, right? That's why the dictatorships are not the best kind. Emphasis of title. The competent leader requires no title. Doesn't care, right? I suggested a book for those that have not read it yet, which is an amazing book, one of my favorites, Relentless, right? Dean Grover is the author, the guy that trained Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and that book really outlines what really leaders are. You read the book, right? You read it? You didn't read it? Huh?
No.
Relentless.
Yeah, I've read it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to now.
It's great. Yeah, it's a great book, and it talks about the real leader doesn't care really at the end what, you know, he just has a goal, he does it, and when he's done, he's already looking at what the next one is. He's not expecting a pat on the back, none of that.
Point
Okay.
on that, Relentless is a fantastic book, and if you get the audiobook version, the reader of that audiobook is
It's great.
amazing.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible. It's a fantastic book.
Okay, cool. Well, let's go to the next one. Decision is a very short one. That's why I spent most of the time in the first one. Not intentionally, but it happened. Success requires no explanations. Failure permits no alibis. Right? And the one thing that also speaks in this chapter that we kind of went over it and gives example of Henry Ford is you can't expect to be successful without failing. If you're failing a lot, that's a sign that you're actually doing something that you're gonna get to succeed. If you're not failing, that means you're not doing enough. Simple as that. All right? So decision. This is a super amazing chapter. I hope everybody read it because we kind of ran out of time, but I'm going to tell you what this means to me, and I'm going to give you a couple examples, and I'm going to put and connect a link to a video that Will Smith talks about this. It's a great video. It's one of my favorites, and every time I'm feeling a little bit low, I read that thing. And there is something, right, because the universe is all connected. And there is something, there's like a magnetic energy that goes out there and connects you and attracts the shortest way, fastest way, the most effective, that benefits everybody involved on what your goals are, but it only gets activated when you make that decision. But it's not like, okay, today I'm gonna do, not that kind of decision. It's a deeper decision, something that comes from inside, right? I've done a number of interviews and a lot of people ask me, and I talk about this already, so for you guys that you heard it, you know, we're gonna hear it one more time. But when 2009 hit, and I basically 2008, in 2007 I stopped working in restaurants because I saved enough money where I thought that now I'm doing okay in real estate, I don't need to work in restaurants anymore. So what I didn't know is like a year later, 2008 was gonna hit. So when 2008 hit and 2009, it was a very difficult market. For those that we were in the market, it was really hairy. And I started eating my savings. In 2007, you know, Cal and I made a decision that because Dylan was born, that she was gonna stop working. So now she wasn't working and it was just me. So we ran out of savings fairly quick. And when I had about $1,000 in my bank account, I woke up one day and I said, well, I don't know how long the market's gonna be like this. I'm working, but I'm not getting paid. So I might need to go back to the restaurant to pick up 3 shifts a week, 4 shifts, and get some cash to be able to, buy food, pay the rent and the basics, and see what happens. And I drove my car and I picked up applications and I stopped in Abalkini, and I was about to go into a restaurant with the application, and there was something inside me, and I don't know how to explain this, but that was that decision. It was that moment where you almost get introduced to your real self. You get introduced to that, to your soul, right? And I remember sitting in there and saying, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing right now?" And I just crumbled that paper. I closed my door and I said, "I'm gonna fucking make this happen. I don't care how the market is. I don't care what's going on out there." At that moment, that's the decision I'm talking about. I made that decision. Inside me was that strong, willingness to do something, and I made my mind. It's like that pure decision, 0 doubts that it was gonna be okay. And I drove my car, and I went to Brentwood Park, and I door knocked for 3 hours non-stop. And from that day, I started to but the way I was working was the same thing I was doing, but with a different energy out there. And that was the beginning of, my career starting to take off. So read that chapter again, pay attention to it. I'm gonna send you the link and connect of Will Smith, and he speaks very clearly about that. Is that when you make that decision that you want to do something, but you really make that decision from the inside, everything is gonna fall into place. All right? Cool. Questions? I know some people have gotta leave. I don't think I have to leave right away, right? So I'm happy to stay another 10 minutes if you guys have questions. We can do Q&As and we can exchange info. So, no? You want to leave?
I just wanted to say thank you. Last week you said something that really resonated in me. This past weekend, so I have a son who's turned 16 about almost a year ago. We bought him a car, finally, about maybe a month ago, the car that he wanted. He's been driving this car for about a month. This past weekend, he got into an accident. Thank God, everybody was okay. The other car got a big damage. His car, nothing happened. He said, "I didn't even feel it." He was coming out of the alley, whatever, and I know, he says I stopped and the car hit me, of course, he's 16. And so my whole attitude towards this, my whole point is that what you had said about your ticket, you could have looked at it in a different way. It could have ruined your whole day. But to me, what you had said was, I was just so thankful. Everybody was okay. My husband was so upset. I can't believe him. We're not gonna let him drive for 6 months. I'm gonna take this car away from him. It was all of that. But what you had said, I just kept telling him, you know what? Thank God he's okay. And everybody's okay. And he's calling me on the phone, "Mom, it's just a little bump in the car." He sends me a picture. The whole side of the other car has gone in. I mean, we're lucky it wasn't total. We have to pay, we're gonna pay, whatever, we gotta do, but it was just all about turning that attitude around and kind of being, thankful that he's okay, thankful the other driver's okay, thank God he didn't hit a pedestrian. So just kind of, and I kept reiterating these to my husband, like, yes, we have to pay, but thank God, it's just money. As long as it's money, we can deal with it, it's all good, but so thank you.
Awesome.
It
That's
could've
called
been
a
a
fast,
harder-
cheap ticket, right? No, it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
what an amazing way, because we all have to learn through that kind of stuff. You start driving, you're young, you don't know, you don't understand what speed or what you can really cause with a car. I drove into a circus one when I was 17, but that's a whole different story for another time. But we made those mistakes. So what, you could tell your husband is, this is the easiest, cheapest way that he is gonna learn now. Because now, he's gonna be driving in a whole different way, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, after a couple of hours, it kind of sank into him too.
Right.
And he went back to my son and he's like, "I'm so sorry, I was so upset, but I need you to be more
I
careful."
probably would be upset too.
Yeah, no, he was so frustrated, but to me, when I heard my son's voice, he said, "Mom, I'm okay, I got into an accident," I smiled.
Right,
I'm like, "I'm so happy you're okay, what happened?"
right.
But it's what you had said about,
It's a choice.
Exactly.
So situations just are, right? Anything that happens or is happening or whatever, it's a situation, it's happening. That's not changing. You can go back in time, you cannot change the situation, you can just make it better or worse. And that's purely a choice, right? Because you can really get in a very dark place with it, or you can just make a choice to learn from the experience and move on with that experience, not to make it again. And so I'm glad that
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
As far as like, I think you mentioned that you do all of your stuff on like whole calendars filled out. So I've been trying to do time blocking and putting my schedule together. But I have a few clients that will come back, they're buyers, so they pop in and out, and they wanna go and see something, like they can only do it today or tomorrow. How do you handle situations like when you're trying to fit? Do you schedule time in your day to have those occurrences, and or do you say like, okay, I'm only gonna tour on these days, so you're gonna have to accommodate my days?
So we're in a business where you need to have flexibility,
Yeah.
okay? So
Can you count
if you schedule to go door knocking today from 2 to 4 and a buyer calls you that that's the only time they can see, you just need to move your schedule around.
And then,
So you just do that and then replace it, but it's important that you put it in another place. Don't be like, oh, I'm gonna do that, so no door knocking this week. That would be an acceptable thing to do, but you just need to replace it.
okay,
You gotta move your schedule.
so just,
And the busier you get, you're gonna find out that what I find myself doing now is like, okay, well, we're gonna cancel now to do the other thing, because it just
so you
gets really busy and you just need to prioritize.
Okay, and see.
Flexibility and prioritizing.
I was gonna say another option is to maybe block in like an hour or two in the afternoon or in the morning. That's just like for last minute appointments or whatever. Cause
Yeah.
worst case scenario, you could always prospect call in that time frame. But
Yeah,
at least
so
then,
maybe
if you have
an
someone who pops
alternative.
in, you have that like flexibility of like a unknown, you know,
Okay.
last minute
Like
emergency.
either I'm gonna get some extra prospecting.
Yeah, or if you need to do an appointment because they're only in town this weekend, and okay, I can slide that in then, you know, and it's not a big deal, but it's allotted. Or an
Yeah.
emergency family and stuff like that, you know, like
Yeah,
it's allotted, open window.
thank you.
What else, guys? Anything else? No? Yes.
I just want to add one attribute that I see in a leader that wasn't on the list, and maybe if this book was written more recently, it would be on there.
Right.
But I like a leader with a consistent brand, and it sounds superficial, but I think of your brand as how you do one thing is how you do everything, and everything that you do is like consistent.
Mhm.
And I feel like you can trust a leader who is consistent and has a brand that you can trust.
Yeah,
Um,
especially in our business, right?
Like the way that you park your car, if you park your car crooked and like, you know, far from the curb, I would see that and think, that's weird, that's kind of careless, and then I would think, what else do they do that's
Right.
careless?
No, that's something. That's amazing. Yeah, cool. Anyone has anything to add? No questions?
Well, I'll just add to what you said about being humble and going above and beyond, because we have a developer who we list properties for, and he said, so then there's one he has for like 400 and something thousand, you know, but we treat it just like a $3 million house, like the open house, how we do it, how we do the whole process, and he sees that and he's like, wow, like that's amazing, even though our commission's like $2 grand or whatever, but it's like the small ones lead to the big ones, and so.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And the busier you get, the more stuff you start doing. I was talking to Griffin yesterday about this. And you start forgetting about, you know, the things that you do and how you do with the smaller stuff because you pay so much attention on the big ones because you're just so focused on the commission, but the reality is that it's not about the commission. It's about the service that you're rendering and what's gonna come in exchange, so don't worry about that. That will come, and will come in different forms. It doesn't matter, but if you're gonna take on a $400,000 listing, you better do what you do for a $10 million listing, because if not, just don't take it. You don't have to take everything, right? But the consistency that, you know, Taylor is talking about is like, you can't be one person and perform one way for one client and be a different person and perform different way for another one, because then there is a missing link in there, and you know, you just start diluting yourself and it's not gonna be you know, the leader that you wanna be. All right, guys. Should we crank up the music and have a shot of tequila or something? You feel like
Did enough to kill last night.
Oh, that might be. Who went out last night? Thursday nights, huh? All right, see you next week. Oh, by the way, 1 second, guys. I want to tell you something really quick. We're gonna, there's one Friday, I'm not, next Friday I'll see you, the 11th. On the 18th, I'm gonna be out of town, so the 18th, we're not gonna have a class. We're gonna give it a break. The Friday the 18th, okay? And then we'll continue the 25th. I think we have another 4 weeks, 4 Fridays, or maybe 5 or 4. Anyway, so see you next week. But the 18th, maybe you want to mark that you don't have to be here, so then you can sleep longer. Just kidding. The opposite of that. Thank you.
And then if we have the 11th. Oh, it's 25th.
So mark it on 28th.
Great.